Okay, welcome to the next section. Here we're going to be looking at your knee mobility. Okay, so the mobility exercises which really help with our knee health. Okay, again, one of the major injury points for runners and everyone else is our knees, and a lot of the time it's the biomechanical issues which are happening in our ankles and our hips which are causing knee pain. But we can have a look at some great exercises to help with this by looking through here. As always with the mobility stuff, we're just going to have a little test to start off with. So if you grab your tape measure and a wall, then we can get into this first test. This just enables us to give us a guide to see if the exercises we're doing are starting to improve and where we need to get to set at. So here what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves set up that we can have the knee as close to the wall as you possibly can, whilst coming back up and then getting the back straight up against the wall. Okay, so that's the test which you need to do. What you're going to do is you're going to have the tape measure down against the wall, okay, and you're going to see where you can get up to a nice upright position whilst maintaining the back straight, okay, without arching. Okay, you need to keep the back nice and straight into there. Now you might not be able to get the knee right the way back there. You might have to have the knee further away from the wall, and you can then stand up in that lunge position. Okay, and you're going to measure the distance, okay, away from the knees from the wall in that angle. And over time what we want to try and do is achieve the knee coming right back and flat against there, so the shin is flat against the wall, the foot's up, and we can move our back and head up against the wall. And that's ideally where we'd like you for the mobility. For the hip flexor down into the quad, you'll feel this stretch. Okay, so I'll show you quickly on the other side. You have the tape measure up against the wall. You're going to place the knee down to the point or angle of the knee slightly away from the wall to the point where you can get up nice and straight. If you can come right up against the knee right up against the wall and then move the foot so it's shins against the wall, and then move into a nice upright position with your head and back flat against the wall, that will be ideal. Okay, a lot of us won't be in that position, that we need to shuffle the knee further forwards to then be able to get right up into that position. Okay, now the first exercise we're going to do for the hip flexor and this one is this couch stretch. So here the variation will be just in that position. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to get into a nice comfortable position where we're feeling that stretch in that upright, and then we're just going to move forward and then come back. Okay, so we're just going to do a little bit of a mobility exercise where we're just lunging forward. Okay, and you'll feel the tightness, and you can vary the resistance or the stretch feel. Again, bring that knee a little bit further away, and then you'll find that you can just lunge that little bit further into the motion, like so. This is a great way to start releasing. You might feel the stretch down through the quad, you might feel it up into the hip flexor, but all the way across the front of the thigh. Remember to keep nice deep breaths. Okay, breathe out as you push forwards, back in on the way back down, and that breathing really helps us release and go into a relaxed state so we can go deeper into a stretch. So really focusing on the hip flexor, and this makes a massive difference to enable us to use our glutes more efficiently when we have more mobile and strong hip flexors. Okay, so the next one we're going to have a look at, once you've done 10-15 repetitions of that couch stretch with that dynamic lunge forwards, so we're just getting a little bit of a movement forward into there, is the good mornings. Okay, so the second exercise is the good mornings. Here we're going to be stretching out the hamstrings. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand up nice and straight into this position. Our feet are going to be straight, and we're going to place our hands on the back of our lower back here. Okay, and what we're going to do is going to keep the chest up, and we're going to push those hips forwards whilst maintaining a straight back. You're going to bow forward. Okay, and ideally we want to try and get that chest so it's about horizontal with the floor, and then come back. Our hands are on our back so we can feel if the lower back starts to roll. We don't want to do that, so we want to keep the back up nice and straight, and then push those hips back and the knees backwards. And what this does is allow us to stretch to the top of the calf there, but also into the back of that hamstring. Really effective. And we're going to go in and out of that stretch, so we're going to go down and then move back up. Okay, so you should feel a nice powerful stretch onto those hamstrings. What we tend to do with a lot of hamstring stretching normally on mobility exercises is we just bow forwards and we try and touch the ground or the floor, and what that does is it stretches out the lower back quite well, which is a good thing, but it doesn't focus onto the hamstrings as much as keeping that back up and moving those hips back. Now if you're finding that too easy with the hair and you with your hands on your back, we can just move the hands onto our temples or out in front of us, increasing that range of resistance, moving through that range of motion. And this is a great way of just starting to activate and move through that range of motion. Okay, so once you've done, again, about 12-15 repetitions of that movement, we're going to go into the squat sit. This is a fundamental exercise that all humans should be practicing and doing. Okay, so here what we're going to do, I'm going to show you a couple of different variations to start off with, but ideally what we're going to have to do is our feet flat in bare feet or no raised heel. We're going to have the feet around about hip width apart, and we want to be able to squat down into a position where we can just sit into that squat and be nice and relaxed. Okay, now this is fantastic, and it shows how good our ankle flexibility is, but also our knee flexibility, because it stretches out the patella tendon fully here as well, which is a fantastic thing to do. Also, it looks at our lower back and our hip flexibility, and also our thoracic or upper back extension here as well, which is a really important part of our full program to try and get ourselves in this bulletproof position where we're reducing injury. So if you can practice that and just see how far you can go down with the feet there. Now, to make this exercise doable for some people, we might need to elevate the heels. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to place something down on the ground. Now books or magazines are ideal, because if you had a group of magazines, you can always start taking one away and just dropping the tension and the elevation down a little bit. So basically what you do is you want to elevate the heels so you can get all the way down into that perfect squat sit position. Okay, so you might find that you need to be up maybe 1 or 2 inches, or 12 centimeters, something like that, to be able to get into that position. And then the more time you spend in here, okay, the better you're going to get, and nice and relaxed. We're going to keep the back up nice and straight, and then we can start to lower that heel raise down and down until we get into a position where we're nice and flat, and we can stay in that squat position whilst the heels are flat on the ground. So that's your goal, okay, over time, and it might take a little bit of time to get into that position. Okay, and this is a really good one, like I say, for all different areas, but also increases that knee mobility and flexion all the way through that big range of motion. So I want you to practice that squat sit and use that one as a little bit of a test and a guidance to see where you're at the moment as well. So just measure or have make a mental note of how much you have to elevate the heels, and then your goal is to try and lower that heel raise down and down until you get those feet flat on the ground. Okay, now next one we're going to try and go for is the pigeon stretch. And so on this one is a really good way of stretching through the top of the hip into the IT as well. Okay, and what you're going to do is we're going to be in a dynamic pigeon. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into a lunge position here. Okay, and we're going to have the front foot in the center of the chest, or center of the hands, so we're into there. Okay, now we're going to lift up the back leg, and what you're going to do is you're going to just push that knee away. Okay, and then you're going to bring it back up into midline. So we're pushing that knee away and then bringing it back up. Here we're really starting to extend that range of motion. Ideally you want to get it down so we can get that knee right down to the ground, but wherever you're getting to at the moment will be absolutely great. Okay, so just push into that stretch and then come back up out of it. Okay, so we'll swap sides and I'll just show you again on the other side with this dynamic pigeon. What you're going to do is have your hands there, your foot is in the middle. Okay, you can have the knee down on the ground just to get yourself set up, and then what you're going to do is you're going to straighten the back leg so you lift yourself up, and then you're going to push that foot away from you and then come back in and go into that deep stretch and then moving back up. Okay, so it's a fantastic way of just increasing that range of motion, but also that little bit of strength element to this mobility exercise to really work down the side of the hips, gaining more mobility through the IT, which often we get a lot of injuries and a lot of problems down into runner's knee, where this IT is too tight because our hips are too stiff and tight as well, and this brings into lots of knee troubles and problems. Okay, your final exercise, or your final mobility exercise, is going to be the pulses, okay, for the hamstrings. So we're going to do a loaded hamstring stretch here. What you're going to do is we're going to place our hands down on the ground, but you can see that I'm staying upright. All the weight's going to be on my front leg, okay, and then my hands are down there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten my front leg, and I'm trying to keep my hands in contact with the ground as I straighten. Okay, I can tilt forwards with my upper body slightly, but what I'm trying to do is really start to put a little bit of pressure and weight on that leg at the same time as stretching out the hamstrings. And this is a great way of really starting to release under a little bit of tension. So I'll show you again on the other side. I come down into that position, the knees bent, and then what I try and do is I keep my hands on the floor and I straighten my front leg. Okay, straighten the front leg. Okay, and this way we're starting to really work on that tension and that flexibility through that hamstring. Okay, good luck with those exercises. We've got a little test at the beginning, okay, with that couch stretch. Measure the distance that the knee is away from the wall, and then you're staying up in that vertical position. Your task today is to go away, do the test, okay, and then just repeat those exercises once more time through, okay, with all those reps and sets that I've mentioned. Also, I've got a written copy of that so you can refer back to those. Okay, good luck with them. Let me know how you get on. We'll speak soon.